Amazing. Well, thank you for turning up. Essentially, what I'm about to run through is a demonstration of Fusion Signage. So, Fusion Signage is a digital signage software package that allows you to send and distribute content to commercial grade screens and devices basically anywhere in the country. So, a bit of background into us. We are a company that's been around for 12 years. We started as a digital integrator. So, we used to do the installations ourselves. We used to use what is now competitive products. We used to do hardware installation, content creation, and software development a little bit later in our life. About 7 years ago, we started building Fusion Signage, predominantly to put on Android-based systems for Philips through another distributor. And we kind of built the product up from there. So for the first couple of years, we didn't really pay much mind to it. It was just another thing that we'd kind of done. But then we started realizing the simplicity and the cost effectiveness of the platform was really starting to become a big selling point. So we had customers that were signing up for free trials and essentially figuring it out themselves, which was a very different proposition to what we were going through with some of the other products that we were using in terms of providing big training sessions and sending 100-page manuals out to try and get them to use it. They were essentially just figuring it out and signing up and saying, hey, can I buy a license? So we started to push it pretty heavily and really start to develop the platform a lot more. But in terms of us, we are a fully Australian-based company. We're a small business based in Brisbane. So we've got a team of 10. We've got a bunch of developers, marketing, sales, and support team, all based here. All of our servers are based in AWS in Sydney, so all onshore for data sovereignty purposes, which is a really big selling point. And we are really just kind of focusing on developing a product that our customers want. So any of the feedback that you might have as a result of this demonstration, we're more than happy to integrate into the platform as we go along. So a lot of the features that I guess are forming part of our Pro license is because as a result of our customers. So what I might do is share my screen and just dive straight into the demo. Awesome. So this is the Fusion Signage platform. Once you log in, so as a reseller, you'll be responsible for purchasing a license for your customers. We do have reseller pricing available through Midwich. You can go and get the customer all set up and ready to go. There are 3 different license types. If you go to our main Fusion Signage website under pricing, you'll see we're pretty transparent with our pricing. This is all the end user recommended retail pricing for the 3 different license types that we have. So we have basic, advanced, and pro. And then we have 3 different durations: annual, 3-year, and 5-yearly. So you can just use this as a little quick calculation to figure out what the pricing is for each of them. Our most common would be a 3-year advanced license, and that's just because it includes all of the features that digital signage requires. So we have the scheduling, so both schedules and content level scheduling, as well as our designer, which I'll show you as part of this, which is content creation directly within the platform. If your customer is quite price conscious, then we do have our basic license, which is very, very cost effective, $124 per screen per year. And all of these licenses are per screen or per device per year. So you just think I've got 4 screens, I need 4 licenses. But the basic license is essentially replacing a USB stick. So put your content on the playlist, put the playlist on the screen, but you don't get things like scheduling. And then the Pro license kind of includes everything. So most of our enterprise level features, we have single sign-on and SCIM. We have replace media system, approval system, location system, tagging system, interactivity, kind of everything in that Pro license. So if your customer wants everything, go for the Pro, but our advanced license is probably our most common. As I said, there is reseller pricing available, so Midwich can provide that as well. So, but margins are about a 30% for you guys. We do have a really good renewal rate as well, so that's something, we've been going 7 years, so we have some pretty good metrics now. So we are sitting around 85 to 90% renewal. So if your customers opt into Fusion Signage, most likely they are going to renew, which gives you a really good touch point to come back to them and have a chat. So back into the portal. This is the Fusion Signage dashboard. So let's say you've gone through the process. You talk to Midwich and say, look, I'd like to set my customer up. You know your pricing. You say they want a 1-year advanced license. Send them through the customer details, the email address, the company name, and their full name, and then we can set them up with an account. They'll get sent a welcome email, and when they log in, basically they're up and running in here. So you guys can help with setting up the screens and the licenses and get that all paired up, but when they log in, this is what they're going to see. So for your purposes, if you're doing a demonstration, you could use your own platform, so we can set you up with a reseller platform in order to do a demo exactly like I'm kind of doing now, but we also do have a bunch of resources which we'll send you out afterwards, which is a pre-recorded demo. There'll be tutorials as well as cheat sheets and stuff like that. Cool. So I'll show you how quick the demo can be. Normally it takes about 15 to 20 minutes if there's no questions, but I'll run through the high level features and we won't touch on any of the kind of pro tagging system location stuff. If we need to do that, we can take that offline. So the dashboard here is essentially the starting place, and you'll see on the left we have our little menu structure which starts at the top and works its way to the bottom. If you follow that structure, you basically started, designed some content, or uploaded your own content and created a playlist and then put it onto the screen. On the dashboard, you have quick access to all of those elements. Within Fusion, there's three main elements. First one is content, and content are images and videos that your customers may create themselves, or designs, which is the inbuilt designer within Fusion, which is a Canvas style editor allowing you to create content within the platform. So get your content in or created, you put that content into a playlist, and a playlist is where you just say, look, this is the content that I want to play on one or many screens, and you can put a playlist on 100 screens if you want to, or a single screen, but that just designates the content that's on there. And then you can put those playlists into a schedule and say, I want to play this playlist at this time and this playlist at that time. So it automates that process. So you can quick access to all of that from here. You can search through and find any of the screens. You can see which ones are most recent, which ones are in use as well. So a very handy way to quickly edit something on the fly. On the right, it'll show you the number of screens that are online. So these are all just some dummy screens, but keeping these online is very important. If the device does disconnect from the internet, it will continue to play that content. It just won't be able to update. So internet connectivity as a cloud-based solution is very, very important. So keep that in mind when you're installing these. We always recommend Ethernet connection as opposed to Wi-Fi, but conscious that Wi-Fi has to happen at some points. Licenses, so this is just the total number of licenses and when any of it are expiring and what kind of licenses you have. And then storage and bandwidth are cumulative based on the total number of licenses on that account. So the more licenses you have, the more storage and bandwidth your customers will have. Bandwidth resets every month, and pretty much these two don't become an issue once you've got kind of more than one license. So that's the dashboard. At the top, we do have our banner, which will give you any kind of new information. You've got our demos over here if you want to access it as well. Any feedback, because we're always open to feedback. And then the marketplace, which I'll show you in a second with the designer. So in the design section over here, this is where you can come in and create your own content within the platform. So the first kind of tab up here is My Templates, and these are ones that you can go in and pre-create. At the top, we do have a marketplace. So in here, you'll see that this is available for purchase. So if your customer doesn't have their own marketing team or design team, they can actually come in here and buy these once off. So once you've paid for it, you've got that on their account forever. So for $79, they can see that this kind of layout here has got a bunch of image zones. These things are all set up, really designed. It's got a background ready to go. So they could just come in, type in their own products and just publish this to the screen. So as you scroll through, you'll see we have a whole bunch for landscape as well as portrait. Some have video content in them, some menu boards, really just a whole different variety of content just ready to go. So keep this in mind when you're selling the product, because it may make your smaller customers very, very interested in, I guess, making their screens look really, really good for a very cost-effective rate. But if they don't want to buy something, that's definitely optional. They can come in and create their own. So if I create a new design here, we have these layouts and these are free. So this is what's included with your advanced or pro licenses. You can choose between portrait and landscape as well. But if I come in and say, I want to use this hero message, create it, this will start. Now this is fully editable in here. So burger menu, for example, you can start typing that in. It's got a background image, which I could swap out. If you don't have your own images and videos, you can use our Unsplash, so free stock images. If I just say, I don't know what wood's going to come up with, wood, I can use that in the template. That's going to put that background in. I can start using shapes, and let's just create a little zone on the right here. I am not a designer by any stretch of the imagination, so send backwards. That looks pretty good. If you have your own images, you could upload them yourself, like I said, or if you don't, I can add in an image over here and then say Unsplash at the top and go burger. It's got over 1 million free to use stock images. Let's use this one on the template. That'll upload that image, which I can then inset on the side, put that into cover, and now you can kind of see the power of getting something up and running pretty quickly. So the full what you see is what you get editor in here gives you power to create content. Benefit of doing it this way is all these fields obviously are editable. So if you want to edit something on the fly, let's say this is a pricing field and this was $19, you could just come in and edit that without having to go back to Illustrator or Photoshop or whatever platform you're using, export it, upload it, put it back in. So really quick on the fly. The other side is we do have dynamic widgets. So we could put a clock widget in, for example, or we do have a countdown, time and date, weather, HTML, which allows you to pretty much connect to any kind of external system. Image slideshow, which is obviously a rotation of images, websites, YouTube Live, Facebook Live, tickers, QR codes, pretty much all the stuff that you'd expect out of kind of a digital signage platform in here as well. One thing that we are working on for larger customers are integrations. So we've done an integration with the point of sale system at the moment. We've done some to parking systems, tram systems, stuff like that. But it allows us to put dynamic content in. So instead of having this $19, which is hard coded, we are tying this to a point of sale system, which dynamically updates that content in real time. So if you update the POS system, it updates the price on here. So we're working with some pretty large franchisees and retail chains in order to make this menu board essentially accessible everywhere around the country. In addition to that, we're also doing drive-throughs so that the drive-through content is being displayed as it's entered into the POS. So moving forward, we're going to be doing a lot more of these integrations that make it really easy for larger customers to update their content in real time. So this content here, as you can see, pretty straightforward to create. We do also have the ability to create a widget or an overlay. So if I click on this, I'll just remove this content. What I can show you is I'll put a little time and date up in the top right-hand corner. So the overlay feature is if I convert this through to a overlay, it allows me to set a transparent zone up in here with a little clock widget in the top right-hand corner. And this, again, you can customize however you want. But if I click save and I say white top block, I'll show you how this comes into play in a second. So you can save the content back into the media library. Everything's accessible. It's all very dynamic. So if you have your own content, so some customers will have their own marketing department, marketing team, you can just upload the content very, very easily. Press add in the top right-hand corner. You've got images, videos, so on and so forth, or you can just drag the content directly into a folder. You can create whatever folder structure you want to organize your content. Could be by promo that they're doing or screen type. A region, really doesn't matter, it's just whatever makes sense. So upload your images and your videos, and then we can start to create the playlist. So if I go up into the ad, you'll see down here we have the ability to create a playlist and a schedule. So if I create a playlist, I'll just call this screen 2 test, create a playlist. Now you can start to populate that playlist. So hit add at the top and media, and you'll see in here we have a whole bunch of different content. I can just start clicking on those files and start adding that content in to the background over here. Pretty straightforward. So once it's in here, we can drag it around, move the different order if we want to. We have a bunch of information from resolution, file size, and duration. Duration is fixed if it's a video file, but you can update it if it is an image, a website, or a design. You can hover over and see what that content looks like, and we do have fit, fill, and stretch if the content doesn't quite fit the screen. But we always recommend kind of making it 1920 by 1080 or 1080 by 1920 to make sure it fits perfectly to the resolution of the screen. On the far right, we have a bunch of options here, so we can delete content, and this just removes it out of this playlist. So get rid of those two, for example. You could duplicate it if you want that file to be more frequent, move it up and down, and then that content will play a little bit more frequently. You can hide the content. This will just simply disable that content within the playlist. And then fourth option is content level scheduling. So within the playlist, this file here, I can schedule it to say, I only want this to play on Mondays and Saturdays, for example. You could further specify a start time and an end time if you wanted to, as well as a start date. So let's say this was just a promo for the month of April. You can come in and say 1st of April to the 30th of April, Mondays and Saturdays all day, or whatever time frame you want. I want to set the schedule. You could set up secondary schedules as well. If there was another time that you wanted to do, say a Wednesday at a different time, you can do that as well. Press apply, and now that content has been scheduled to only appear in that time. So this is an additive process, meaning because all this other content hasn't been scheduled, this file will be added into the rotation at that point, but it won't play exclusively. So I'll show you how to do exclusive content when we get to the schedules, the proper schedule section, but this is just a really quick way to add and remove content based on time of day to day of the week. The final option over here is replace. So replace allows you to find a new file and keep all the same settings that you've got on there. So this is quite important when it comes to tagging as well, which is a pro level feature, which I won't go through today, but it retains any of the information you've kind of set up on here. And I could swap this out with this file, for example. Just scroll down to the bottom, hit replace, that swaps that file out, and then it's kept that same content level scheduling in there. When you're ready, another thing you can do, is you can add in a playlist. So clicking on add, you'll see we've got media and playlist. Click on playlist, and in here, it gives you a whole list of any other playlist that's been created on here. So let's just say I've got some holiday content. That's just a warning because it'll only play one playlist deep. So because this has another playlist in it, it essentially says it ignores it. But this playlist now is treated the same as any other piece of media in here. So I could duplicate it, show and hide, I can schedule it. But if I open up that playlist in a new window, you'll see it has a whole nother subset of content in here. So this is now managed separately, but it's a really good way to organize your content, or if you have basically some head office content that you want to make sure it's always in there without it being removed, keep that in a playlist, and it's kind of managed completely separately, which is a really good feature that a lot of our customers will use. When I hit preview, you'll see what kind of happens. So this content in here, I've got portrait and landscape. So however the content appears in this window is how it is. So if it looks like this, it means you haven't got the correct aspect ratio. But as I cycle through, you'll see what that content kind of looks like. You say, yep, I'm happy with that. That's how I want it to look. Then I can hit save and publish and either save it, which means I just save it back into the manage section, or you'll see you can use the drop downs here to basically assign it to your screens straight away. So the benefit of doing this is, once you set up your screens, you can just quickly come in, leave these screens on here and press save and publish. I do have screen groups as well, which means I can put 100 screens into a group and then basically update all 100 screens at the same time if you need to. When I hit save and publish, it'll give me a warning because these devices are offline. So again, as I said, they need to be online when they are updating the content, but any of the content will be cached on there. So if it does say offline, the customer will need to go and check basically what's going on with my internet connection. Hit save and publish. Within about 40 seconds, that content will be sent to the screen and updated. But again, if that screen comes online, which sometimes it may be because it's scheduled to turn off overnight, maybe turn on in the morning, it'll check with the server and download that content. When I hit the overlay button up here, what I'll do is I'll select that white top clock. What this is going to do when I hit preview, you'll see in the top corner, I've got that white little box with a clock on it. That then sits on top of all the content within this playlist, meaning that'll always sit there as a widget on top of anything, no matter what I put into that playlist. So a really handy feature if you just always want to have a clock or the weather or a QR code or something in there, your customers can do that as well. Great, so that's the playlist, pretty straightforward. Basically just create a playlist, populate your content and assign it to whichever screens that you want. If you want to schedule that, we can come into the manage section on the left, click on add, and then click on schedule. And we give this the same kind of name. So screen to schedule. And now we have a time and date view in here. So what I can do is I can set, first of all, the default playlist. So this is the content that's going to play when nothing else has been scheduled. So if I come in here and say, look, I want to put my standard promotion on, set that, it grays out the area everywhere. So that's the content that will play by default if nothing else has been set. So then if, say, on a Friday afternoon, I want to come in and say between these times over here, I would like my evening playlist to start playing only on that Friday. I can add that playlist to the schedule. As soon as that time happens at 1 p.m., it'll start playing that content exclusively. So this is how we can say it's like happy hour, only want this content to play. As soon as the event ends, it'll go back and play that default playlist. So we've got a whole bunch of options in here as well. We could say I want this to be forever instead of then. So as I cycle through the weeks, you'll see that that kind of playlist stays there forever. So every Friday afternoon, that content will appear. And then you can just start to add your playlists in and really build out your calendar, however you want to do that. So you've got pretty good frequency, pretty good ability to move this around as well. So once you've set up your schedule, customers are all happy, they can hit save and publish, go in, and now we would assign this to those same screens. So because you can either have a playlist or a schedule assigned to the screen, you have to override a playlist because basically a playlist is an accumulation of media, but a schedule is an accumulation of playlists. So I'm going to override that screen 2 test that I just created, which was a playlist with this new schedule, save and publish. Again, it's going to give me that warning about the screens being offline. Save and publish again, and now when that time happens, it'll download the content and play that on the screen. So it's just a handy way to automate the content changing over so your customer doesn't even have to think about it. Under the deploy section, this is where we add the screens in and manage the devices. So it's pretty straightforward to get screens into the account. When you boot up our application, every one of our applications essentially has the same kind of layout. It gives you this 6-digit identity code, which you can add into the account. Just simply press add screen, enter that identity code, assign it to a license, and pair it with that account. Once it's in, you give it a name, obviously, you can see some information. This is just for general troubleshooting in terms of the device fingerprint. It'll tell you what that device is. So if it's a Windows device, so these are all just Chrome browsers, it'll tell you that, or it should generally tell you the manufacturer like Samsung, LG, Philips, so on and so forth. Content changer here is a pretty quick way to change the content. So for this dual screen, if I want to swap it over, I can click on this and replace the content. At the top, you'll see we have playlists and schedules. Interactive is for touchscreen deployment, so we won't go through that today, but we can custom build a interactive template that allows them to edit it on the fly. But if you want to select a new playlist, say the standard promotion, I can press submit. That content, as long as that device is online, will swap over. So in here as well, you'll notice if I click on it, I can edit the playlist. So under the dual screen, if I want to change the content that's in here, hit edit playlist, opens that in a new window. I can then start going and adding new media and then press save and publish, and that content will be updated on that screen. So just another quick access. Notifications allow you to receive an email, so this is pretty handy if you want to be proactive with getting the screen back online. Send an email once the device goes offline for X period of time. So I think the minimum is 10 minutes, but you can set it up to an hour. And you can also set a notification time frame. So if it's supposed to be on between Monday to Friday, but not on the weekends, you can say only send me an email if it turns off during this time, which is peak time. Set the time zone, make sure that's correct because that's how our server will know. But once you hit save, that's when that notification will be sent if it goes offline. Over here in the status column, this will tell you whether the device is currently online or offline, and if it's been offline for how long. Clicking on this will give you a histogram of how long that device has been online. So this is a dummy screen that we've only just kind of turned back on, but essentially you'll want to see this solid green. If it's been red for a while, it'll kind of spike up and down, but essentially that'll tell you some information. If it's really spiky, it's probably on a Wi-Fi connection and it's dropping in and out, so you really do want to see solid green. In here, you'll see the license type, whether it's expired and how long is remaining on it. So the expiry is here as well as the remaining time frame and whether it's expired. When the content was last updated, so 22 days ago, this screen was updated, a year ago, so on and so forth. That means the content's been downloaded and received. And the final column is our application version. So it just gives us an idea of whether it's running the latest app. There are two tabs at the top, individual and grouped. This is where you can group your screens, so putting them into any kind of group that you want. Put 100 screens into here, and then you can update them all by clicking on here and pressing replace. You can change that content over, and it'll update all screens. Finally, under the settings section, you do have the ability to change your password, set multi-factor authentication, which we always recommend, setting up account details. So for you guys as resellers, it's really important to have this information up to date, because when the customer comes in and presses on the support, it'll say that information directly down here. So making sure that your contact user is set as the right email address, because then they can get in touch with you if they do have an issue. Companies you guys may not see, under users, you can add as many users in as you want. Just basically email address, select the company that they're associated with, which will just be your own for this stage, first name, last name, and then you can just send the welcome email. Permission groups is another feature under the advanced and pro licenses, but essentially it just allows you to control what that user group has access to. So screen groups, media folders, playlists, and schedules. You can say view, and modify. We do have an approval system under our pro license, which basically means if you don't have approver access, you need to wait until somebody who does approves your content. On the second level over here, we do have the granular level, so I can actually split this out to individual screens and say I have view and modify access only this one screen. So when I log in, that's the only screen that I can see. This has been kind of superseded by our location system, which essentially allows the customer to build a full hierarchy and assign users to a location. And then when they log in, they have their own little kind of environment set up, which makes it easier to manage when their customers are doing kind of site-by-site setups. Over here, we do have the player apps, so you can download all of our player applications over here, but we do have our support site, which we highly recommend you guys have a look at because it's got our help guide in here, which just has a whole heap of information, frequently asked questions, all of our tutorials. So if you want to get our full tutorial, 10 minutes, quick start for 52 seconds, or the 28-minute demo, which is essentially what I'm doing right now, you can send any of these to your customers just to give a full overview of the account, as well as a full breakdown on the left of everything that I've just gone through. But more importantly, our installation guides. So in here, you'll see all of the operating systems and manufacturers that we support. So typically we have an application for all of those operating systems, and then you can go through and find the installation guides in here. So if you ever get stuck, just refer back to here or just reach out to us and we're happy to help as well. Great, so that's basically the demonstration, pretty high level, but it basically runs through, I guess, the interface and the simplicity of it. I'm not sure whether we've got any questions at all, but if anybody has any questions, feel free to chuck them into the chat or just start.
We did have a question, James.
Okay.
From Jamie, if you wanted to, do you want me to read it out, Jamie, or do you want me to, you just want to take over?
You want to put it in the chat or?
I'll see in the chat.
Oh, I can't see it. Meeting chat says nothing.
Is there a way to have a default presentation playing, then trigger another presentation to play at a particular time using an external switch?
So one of the features that we're working on right now is called campaigns to do exactly that. So the only way that we kind of historically have done it is using our schedules. As you can see, this is a time and date trigger, but it's very, very clunky. So the reason we're building campaigns is because some of our customers have 100 screens and they all have different content on them. If they wanted to trigger something for, let's say, Easter, they would have to go and create 100 schedules and assign it, which is not a very user-intuitive way to do it. So the campaign system, which is going to come out probably hopefully around August this year, will essentially whatever content you have on this screen, it could be a playlist or schedule, doesn't matter. the campaigns will sit outside of that. So phase one is basically we're just going to add time and date to it, but phase two will be adding triggers from external sources. So it could be from an API, a data source, it could be from a website. I'd be interested to know, Jamie, kind of what your trigger is and how we can kind of communicate with it. But the trigger will start it, and then it'll say play this content for a period of time, whatever it is. But once that's then done, go back and play whatever you were playing. So this is going to be exceptionally powerful to be able to run these campaigns. We have customers that are asking for emergency management systems. So when a fire alarm goes off, for example, trigger all the content on the screen to change to evacuate with arrows. And then as soon as the fire alarm's off or after a period of time, go back and play whatever it was. So short answer is right now, no. But the long answer is, yep, in a few months, we will definitely have a system like that. But any information about, I guess, what you would want to use it for will be helpful, because then we can tailor that on our side as well. Essentially from here, what we'll do is we'll send you guys out some information. We have been recording this, so oh, sorry, Jamie did have a question. In a situation where these BrightSign players use the GPIO firms. Yeah, okay. So GPIO, we're not 100% sure. We do have a BrightSign application that runs on it. We haven't done any integrations with the player itself. There's no reason why in the future we can't access that, but it's probably towards the end of the year that we'll be able to maybe look at adding some more of those features and functionality in. Yeah, BrightSign definitely has a lot of sync features, inputs, stuff that we would love to get our hands on. One of the things that we can do and we have tested is just running our player.fusion signage PWA within a BrightSign application. So instead of, I guess, using our onboard application, which takes over, you use a BrightSign presentation with a HTML widget embedded with Fusion Signage player on it. So that way you can use all of the triggering and stuff that the BrightSign is. And when you trigger to our HTML widget, it basically just runs Fusion Signage. So I guess you get all the benefits of using Fusion in terms of the customers updating their content, but then you get all the power out of BrightSign in terms of setting up the thing. Bit clunky, I know, but we know that a customer has been using that successfully. So if that's of interest, please reach out, because there's a few settings that we need to set on the BrightSign player to allow that to happen. If there's any other questions, you just let me know. But otherwise, yeah, so from here, we're basically going to send you out a little information pack. This has been recorded, so we'll send that through to you as well. Midwich has all of our reseller pricing. If you do have any opportunities, please reach out to us or Midwich. We're happy to do a demonstration with your customer. Typically, we have our pre-recorded demo because it's a lot easier for customers just to digest it themselves. The 10-minute tutorial, for example, is a very good kind of overview, which customers can get a really good feel. What we kind of find is there's a lot of uncertainty for new customers around digital signage. They kind of understand what a screen is. They don't really understand what they're going to do with it. So showing Fusion and leading with Fusion as part of the sales pitch is where a lot of our resellers have great success, because then they see, wow, this is really easy and I can just create content within the platform. And if I give this to my marketing team or the receptionist, they'll be able to update the content. So it really empowers them to see, digital signage isn't scary. It's not this enterprise solution that allows you need a degree in order to use. You can get in and create some content, update it in real time, and make it really, really simple. So feel free to send any of these tutorials through just to get them excited. If you do have larger customers that maybe wants to see some of the pro level features, please reach out to me. I'm happy to do this demonstration with you guys in order to, I guess, put the best foot forward and answer any questions that they've got. Just reach out to myself or Gabby or any of the guys at Midwich, and we can help through that process. But if there's no other questions, thank you so much for coming along and taking the time. Please reach out if you do have any other questions or anything else that you want to discuss, or even stick around at the end. I'm happy to have a chat for a little bit longer. But otherwise, thank you for joining our webinar. Thanks to Midwich for hosting it. Again, that would be a very good, nice thing to keep doing in the future.